can hear me? Oh, you want me to speak louder? Okay. I'm an internal medicine physician at University of Miami. Hello to everyone out there on Brother Albert's device. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Stop the Bleed, which is a method created by the American College of Surgeons. And then we're going to transition into a brief overview of cardiopulmonary bypass or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR as well. We hope that after you leave here that you take this information and you talk to other individuals about it. The method that I like to tell people is the see one, do one, teach one, which is you see it yourself, you do it yourself, and then you teach somebody else how to do it. And therefore, it's not just knowledge that is held at this workshop, it's knowledge that you pass on to other people as well. I want to make sure that you know that this is a method that is used across the world. One of the reasons why we started to do this in general, and we'll talk about the social determinants of health briefly, is because Miami-Dade County is the place, Jackson Memorial Hospital, which is our Ryder Trauma Center specifically, is our trauma center. It's a level 1 trauma center, which means that they can take care of the worst types of trauma that you've ever seen, including burns and everything like that. But what it also means is that here, in particular in Miami-Dade County, the types of gun violence that people are seeing is so bad that the United States military comes to train here. And so, because they see gunshot wounds that are basically the same, or if not worse, some people say that it's worse than what they see going there in front. The military goes out to do what they do in other countries. So, with that being said, I want you all to pay attention, to ask questions, to be very intimate, and I also want to make sure that you know that this actually works. We met a patient who was an amputee at the clinic maybe a month ago, who is from Honduras or something like that, and his leg got ran over by a bus, and he was bleeding profusely. He said a cab driver pulled over, basically took the shoelace out of his shoes, and then tied it around his thigh to basically save his life. Took him to the hospital as well, which is a main component as well. Okay, so this works. You don't necessarily, I'm going to give you tourniquets, you don't necessarily have to use them. There are other things that you can use as well. Again, be open, ask questions. So, with that being said, the first thing that I gave out was this factors that affect health. Of course, I told you that I'm a doctor, and going to the hospital, seeing a primary care doctor is but one facet of being healthy. Hello, how are you? You here for the training as well?
Huh?
You here for the training? Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So, so in the handout, health is but one factor that determines whether or not we live or die. If you look up basically the zip code of where we're at right now, Overtown, 33136, you'll see that the life expectancy is about 70 or so years old, maybe 69, 70, maybe 71. If you look up a zip code that's literally 2 or 3 miles away, Brickell, or Star Island, Palm Island, which is also close by, less than 5 miles away, you'll see that their life expectancy is about 85 years old. And so that difference in life expectancy that you see in Overtown versus Palm Island or Coral Gables or Brickell or more well-to-do areas are factors of social determinants of health. Life expectancy is directly correlated with the social determinants of health. Those that have access to the social determinants of health, which are labeled in the handout that I gave you, economic stability. Do you have a good job? Do you live in a good neighborhood in which houses are valued at a higher price? Do you have an education that, have you completed greater than a 3rd grade education or graduated high school? Do you have access to food? Do you live in a food desert? Is there discrimination or a lot of stress in the community that you live in? And then lastly, as I mentioned, healthcare. And I want to say that healthcare is actually only determines about 10% people's life expectancy in the neighborhoods that we're in, okay? The rest of it has to do with these social determinants of health or these social factors, okay? And as you can see, a lot of those factors are determined by what? Local government, right? And things of that nature, policymakers, things that, things that we vote on. So number one, the things that we vote on are very important, even if we do make them as controversial as we've seen like throughout the state and things of that nature. You don't want to become disenfranchised from voting because your literal life depends on it based on these social determinants of health, okay? Gun violence is also a social determinant of health. If you have low amounts of gun violence, then your life expectancy is lower. If there are a bunch of 21-year-olds or 22-year-olds or 23-year-olds that are getting shot and killed because of gun violence, then that lowers the life expectancy of everyone in the neighborhood that you live in, okay? And so it's very important. It's a very important factor, and actually things like mental health, disasters in which occur in Miami a lot as well, these all affect the social determinants of health in a negative way, okay? So I wanted to leave that there and really, talk about social determinants of health because the reason why we started the Healing and Justice Center, in which Dade County Street Response is one coalition member in the Healing and Justice Center, which is hosting this event today, we want to fulfill the social determinants of health by offering services to people in the community that we think that the government could either do a better job at doing, or we want to help the government do as well, or both. And so our Alternative to 911 Mobile Health Mental Crisis Line was created because, people who have mental health crises are more likely to get shot and killed by police. And so we wanted to create a unit that actually responds to those things so that we can help save people's lives. We want to offer mental health therapy to individuals who are victims of gun violence. And believe it or not, even if you don't get shot by a gun, you are a victim of gun violence. Even if you are the shooter, it's likely that you've been affected by gun violence. We've seen oftentimes that people who actually shoot guns actually have been victims of violence themselves at some point in their lives as well, and we know that it perpetuates. So we want to give those people healing, time to heal, access to therapy and things of those nature as well, and that's what we offer in the Healing and Justice Center. The Circle of Brotherhood also offers violence interruption services. We know that if there are individuals in the community that can help de-escalate violence, then the violence doesn't occur, and that people live longer, right? And so all these things help extend people's lives, and that's literally why we created the Healing and Justice Center, okay? Does anybody have any questions about the social determinants of health? It's a long word, but it's basically things that you know, okay? All right. With that being said, the next thing, I also like to mention that gun violence is not inherent to our community. Anytime you have a lack of social determinants of health, a lack of access to the things that are considered social determinants of health, you see an increase in violence. It doesn't matter if you are in Overtown or Bangladesh or Ethiopia, it doesn't matter. Anytime that there is a lack of resources for individuals in the community to survive what's going on around them, violence increases, okay? And there's research about that, even though we've been stigmatized to think that, black people, that brown people are inherently more racist than or not racist, but inherently more violent than other communities. That's completely untrue. It's false. It's been documented. People researched it. It doesn't matter, okay? Violence is literally a byproduct of poverty, okay? All right, cool. So anybody who says, those black people, those Spanish people, they so violent, no, it doesn't matter where it is across the country. Or across the world. Anytime there is lack of access to resources, you see an increase in violence. Okay? All right, cool. So, with that being said, keep that with you. Talk about it. Google it. They have a bunch of different resources around it and everything like that you can look up and see more, read more about it. I encourage you to read more about it. Okay? So, with that being said, yeah. With that being said. Now, we're going to talk about the Stop the Bleed, okay? All right, so, as I mentioned, Stop the Bleed was created by the American College of Surgeons. It's for people who experience trauma and when they are away from some sort of hospital or medical facility and you want to help save their life as a civilian or as an onlooker that may or may not have a lot of medical training, but you do understand the basic things that are going on, and you use the tools around you to respond in the best way. Again, a lot of times I started just, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, because individuals in the community were saying they were seeing a lot of gun violence in the community, but they didn't know what to do. They were seeing family members bleed out in front of them, but they didn't know how to respond. They wanted to, they felt like they didn't have the skills. And so because it's so prevalent in our communities, I thought it'd be a good a workshop to have, okay? All right, so with that being said, before we get into the actual booklet, I actually like to talk about some general physiology of the body, okay? Now, I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to make it as fast and as easy as possible, okay? Basically, these are the vital organs in the body, okay? Minus the kidneys, they're here. They're supposed to be in this area right here, okay? As you can see, the brain, okay, is covered by your skull, okay? That protects the brain from any damage when you fall and hit your head or anything like that. The skull protects your body, okay? As you go down in the lungs, you have the lungs that are actual tissue that are covered by your rib cage, okay? And that's important too because it protects, your ribs and other vital organs in your body, okay, in this area, okay? Then you have the liver, which is kind of under the lungs. It's very, very, it has a large blood supply. And all the organs in this area basically have a large blood supply, okay? And in the middle of your lungs, and back of your lungs, under the rib cage as well, is the heart, okay? We're going to talk a lot about the heart because I think it's an important organ in what we're doing, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about it, okay? But I just wanted you to get an idea of where the different vital organs are in your body, okay? And to know that a lot of the organs that we have with a lot of blood supply is in the stomach. And it's really crucial because if someone gets shot in the stomach, they can bleed out really fast, okay? And I'm going to talk about the exact blood supply that we have in different parts of the body, okay? So for now, just get a mental picture. A lot of people know where the general organs are in general and everything like that, okay?
I was going to ask a question.
Go ahead.
If you get shot in one of the vital organs, what is the likelihood of you surviving?
It's high.
Okay.
Unless you get shot directly in the heart, in which the heart, pumps blood around the body. I'm going to talk about the main function of the heart right now, and I'm going to answer your question. But you can survive a gunshot wound in a major organ if you are close to a level 1 trauma center, which we are, okay? And that level 1 trauma center is Ryder Trauma Center. I want to stop and also make sure that you know that when I was in residency, I was leaving the hospital one day, and I was, a car pulled up with 4 and 5 individuals. Someone was shot in the front seat. I was leaving the actual emergency room. The emergency room of Jackson is actually different than the emergency room for the trauma center, okay? They're on different parts of the medical campus. Jackson Memorial Hospital, the campus, is one of the largest, I think it's the 2nd or 3rd largest medical campus in the country. If you bring someone to the wrong side of the hospital, if you don't take someone to Ryder Trauma Center, you are basically, you're wasting time, basically, okay? And so one of the more important things that I want to mention is that number one, Ryder, you want to put in your Google phone or your Google Maps, Ryder Trauma Center. That is the trauma center. When these individuals brought the young man to the hospital who was hunched over in the front seat, had been shot, he was unconscious at the time, blood everywhere. They brought him to the regular emergency room. I want to let you know that, I immediately helped him out, put him on a gurney and took him to the right place, but you don't want to make that mistake. You want to take them directly to Ryder Trauma Center, okay? All right, so with that being said, I want to talk about the general overview of the arteries in the body, okay? Because when you do a stop the bleed, this is basically what you're stopping. You're stopping the blood flow to a specific organ or to a specific extremity that is taking blood to the rest of the body, okay? And so, again, this is where the heart is. It's in the middle of the chest, all right? The heart's function is to pump blood to the rest of the body, okay? When you feel your pulse, okay? I want everybody to feel, because it's hard to feel it on your wrist. I want you to feel it in your neck, okay? Because this is the most important part of checking a pulse in the neck during a trauma situation, and I'll tell you why in a little bit, okay? But you want to make sure that you feel a pulse in the neck. Who can't feel their pulse under the neck? You feel it? Everybody feel it? Everybody got the pulse?
Right, we
Okay.
got pulse.
Now I want you to feel, I want you to find the pulse on someone else. Because it's important. You might be able to find your pulse, but you know, different people have different body types and everything. So you want to make sure you can find the pulse on somebody else, okay? Find a pulse on.
I got you.
Yeah, he's alive. He's alive. Yeah.
Okay.
If you can't find the pulse on someone else, before you start CPR, you must not have a pulse, okay? You can't start CPR unless you don't feel a pulse. If you start CPR on somebody who has a pulse, they're going to be really upset at you because it hurts, okay? And so you want to make sure that firstly that you find a pulse. If you can't find a pulse, you start CPR. Remember that, okay? Anyway, the heart is what you, go ahead.
What if somebody's choking?
If someone's choking, you want to do the Heimlich maneuver. That's different, okay? And usually you're able to identify if somebody's choking because they make the cardinal. You know, the Heimlich maneuver is different than what we're talking about. Heimlich maneuver, you put your fist over, you go in back of them, you push up and in, up and in until it comes out. Okay? All right, cool. If it's a baby, you turn the baby on the back, on your knee, and then you. Okay? All right, cool. All right. Anyway, what I was saying was that this is the major blood supply of the body. I'm not going to ask you to memorize all the different arteries and veins and everything like that. But what I will say is pay attention to where the bigger arteries are. The bigger arteries are where? It's there in the arms, right? And where else? In the legs, right? And where else? In the abdomen, right? Remember all the organs that are in the body. All this is the aorta. This is the major blood supply to all those organs in the body. Okay? And so you're right. The major arteries are in the arms and in the legs. If you decide to do a tourniquet, understand that you cannot put a tourniquet around someone's stomach. You can't put it around the neck, around the head. You have to put a tourniquet around the extremities, okay? And we'll talk about exactly how to do that in a minute, okay? But this is the major blood supply to the heart. We just check the pulse, okay? You also have a pulse in your arm, on the side of your thumb, okay? You also have a pulse in your groin area. You have a pulse between your leg, in the back of your leg, and you have a pulse in your foot as well. The major one is where? In the neck. Okay, great. So the heart is pumping blood away from the arteries. Take blood away from the body. Okay, say arteries away. So everything in red is going away from the heart. The first place that blood is pumped after it comes out of the heart is the head. This is the most important part. Okay, if someone gets shot in the head or if they're losing blood to the head, what's going to happen? They're going to fall out. They're going to fall out, okay? And so the most important function of the heart is first to pump blood to the head. And that's important because this is exactly where we're checking the pulse first, okay? If a person doesn't have a pulse here, they probably don't have a pulse anywhere else. Because literally, if you have a trauma situation, the arteries literally clamp down and won't supply blood or supply minimal blood to the rest of the body in order to get blood to the head. Okay? So that's why the pulse under the neck is so important. Okay? All right. Cool. So arteries go where? Away. Arteries go away from the heart. Okay? Then what happens when the blood goes away from the heart? All the organs take up the blood to work and everything like that. They take all the oxygen out, right? Because the oxygen is what's in the blood. It's not the blood itself, because the blood has a lot of stuff in it. But the oxygen is what's most important. The oxygen is what helps, when you're running, you know what I mean? And your legs need blood, they take the oxygen from your blood, okay? So arteries go away from the heart. It carries oxygenated blood. Say oxygenated. Oxygenated blood to the rest of the body, okay? And then, once the organs start taking up the oxygen from the blood, they send it back around to the heart via the what?
Veins.
The veins, exactly. So the veins follow the same footprint as the arteries, but they carry deoxygenated blood. Say deoxygenated blood.
Deoxygenated blood.
Exactly. Okay, so arteries go away, they carry oxygenated blood. Veins go to the heart, they carry deoxygenated blood. And it's just a big circuit, right? So what you're feeling when you feel your pulse is boom, boom. You're feeling the heart contract and push oxygenated blood away from the heart, and then when it relaxes, the blood is able to fill up in the heart again, and then it just goes in a circle all over again, over and over and over again. So what you're feeling in the pulse is this cycle of blood, oxygenated, deoxygenated blood, or whatever, right? So when you breathe in, the oxygen goes to your lungs, the deoxygenated blood goes back to your lungs, it takes the oxygen, fills into your heart, and then it contracts again, it goes around and around and around, okay? So you understand that? That's all I want you to know, okay? Cool, great. All right, so what happens now is now we're going to go to the actual stop the bleeding, okay? So I want you to turn to page, I want you to read the whole thing, but I want you to turn to page 6, okay? All right. So on page 6, the first of all, it's the ABCs of bleeding, right? So A stands for what? A stands for alert. B stands for what?
Bleed.
And C stands for what?
Compress.
Compress. So alert, bleeding, compress. Alert, bleeding, compress. If you don't remember nothing else from this, remember alert, bleeding, compress, right? The alert portion is very important because number one, if you don't alert anybody, you could be compressing the blood, but this is just a temporizing measure. You are just there to save time, okay? If you stop somebody's bleeding, you give them more time, okay? But as we'll discuss, you know, like the guy who was in Honduras who tied the shoelace around his thigh after his leg got ran over. If you tie that too long, you could lose your leg, okay? If you tie a tourniquet too long, if you cut it off for more than an hour and a half, you completely cut off the circulation to that limb, and because of that, they're at risk of having it amputated. Because over an hour and a half is the maximum amount of time that an organ can survive without any blood supply. Okay? All right. So we talk about alert. So you're in Reeves Park, right? Because we're here. You hear gunshots, right? You hear gunshots, right? Did you get a booklet? Okay, here goes the booklet. Okay. Okay. All right. You're in Reeves Park. You hear gunshots. Someone gets shot. Okay? The first thing that you do is what? When you hear the gunshot?
Call 911.
Not necessarily. What you say?
They run.
You run.
Safe.
Or you just want to be safe. So the first thing you do is duck down because you don't want to get shot. Okay? If you get shot, who are you responding to? Nobody. Because now you got shot. Now you can't respond to nobody. Okay? So the first important part of this is safety. All right? So in there, I like what Stop the Bleed does because it's general, it's easy. But you know, I think it's a little different than where we would be in a different circumstances. I'm from Philadelphia, and I know when I hear gunshots, I'm ducking down. I want to make sure I don't get shot. Okay? So, huh? Yeah. So you want to make sure that you duck down. All right? So duck down. Make sure that you're safe, because if you're not safe, you're not going to be able to respond to somebody else. So after you do that, when do you decide to get back up? I know it's common sense, but we don't hear anything. When you feel like it's safe to get up, you don't want to actively get up when someone is still shooting. You want to make sure the scene is safe. Okay? Look first. You gotta look. You gotta hear. You know what I mean? And you gotta make sure that whatever happened is done. Usually, they're not standing around after something like this, because they ain't trying to get caught, right? So you understand that the people have run away. Okay, now you get up and you're looking around and you see someone is shot. Okay, how do you know someone's shot?
Because you alert and you see.
Because you see it, right? You see the bleeding. You know what I mean? And the person might say, "Hey, I got shot," or whatever. Okay. At that point, you want to alert. Okay. So who are you gonna call?
911.
What do you say when you call 911? Yeah.
Somebody's bleeding.
Somebody's bleeding. What do you say?
Somebody just got shot.
A victim just got shot, right?
Yeah.
And when you say that, who show up?
The police.
The police show up. And when they show up, what do? They wait. They ask questions. They treat it like a crime scene. Okay? Now this is probably where me and the American College of Surgeons, this is where we divest. I'm a doctor, I'm gonna tell you the truth, I'm from the hood, okay? When you call the police and say that someone is shot, they are going to send the police, okay? What I do is, I'm saying if I'm going, because in general, the reason why you're here is because you want to respond to what has happened,
Yeah,
okay?
yourself.
So it's safe enough for you to respond. You've made sure the scene is safe, okay? You're going to respond to the individual, okay? Then it should be safe enough for a paramedic to come and do the same thing. So, what I'm saying is, make sure that the actual scene is safe before you call 911. Once you have done that, and you have determined that you are going to respond to the scene, and you care, if you're going to respond to the individual, obviously you have some genuine care for the individual. It might be a family member, it might be a cousin, could be a friend, okay? You want to save this person's life. When you call 911, you're going to say what?
Person been shot.
No, a person is bleeding.
A person is bleeding.
And we need an ambulance
Exactly.
SAP.
They might ask you questions, hey, what happened? I don't know.
I don't know.
All I know is that someone someone is bleeding.
Someone is
I'm
bleeding.
going to respond to the
I'm-
individual,
That's right.
okay? I don't know what else happened, but I'm here and I'll be here when a paramedic is here. Usually that's enough for them to feel confident to actually send a paramedic. And when you do that, the point of this whole thing is because in 30 minutes, if you have a major gunshot wound to one of the major arteries or one of the major organs in the body, you can literally die, okay? So the minutes are
Important.
very, very important at this time, okay? So you want to make sure that you're getting the people that can help you the most as quick as possible. Hey, somebody is bleeding. I don't know what happened. I'm going to respond to the individual. I need you to get here as soon as possible. I'll stay on the phone, whatever. I'm going to administer, stop the bleed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, bam, you did it. Done, okay? Once you do that, if you are the only person at the scene, now you can respond to the individual, okay? So you walk up to the individual. What's your name again?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Jennifer, it looks like you've been shot. No. Jennifer, it looks like you've been shot, right?
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and then you just start like looking for the gunshot wound?
Where, you asked them?
Well, no, you will ask them.
No, you don't just start looking for the gunshot wound because some people may not want you to help them,
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
Ask them how they feeling, is they okay?
Are you okay?
Is you alert?
Are you? Yeah, though you wanna establish.
I know.
Yeah, but you want to, when you get shot, you're in a state of trauma, right? You don't want to respond to someone who might pull out a knife. They don't know. You could be trying to finish a job or something like that.
You want to shot.
So you got to make sure that the individual, number one, knows who you are. Hey, I'm Dr. Henderson. I want to help you. I know the stop the bleed thing that I was taught. You look like you shot. Can I help you?
That's different.
Yeah. Hell yeah, you can help me.
Yeah.
Rather than walking up to someone and just start like doing what you gotta do, you gotta ask for permission to do it. Because you don't want to put yourself in danger. Somebody might pull out a knife and be like, yo, fuck you. I don't know who you are. You know, I just got shot. You know, and I've seen it happen before as well. You want to establish rapport, a relationship with the individual, even if it's for a minute. It's important, okay? Yes, you can help. At that point, so you alerted. What's the B again?
Bleeding.
Bleeding. Okay. So you've seen that someone has gotten shot. Okay? You see the blood on the shirt. What do you do next? You already introduced yourself. They said, yes, you can help me. What do you do next?
Try CPR.
Compress.
You identify where the bleeding.
You got to identify where the bleeding is coming from first before you
Tear the
compress.
shirt, you gotta
Okay?
Tear the material, tear the shirt.
You got to take their shirt off. If they have a long sleeve shirt on, they got shot in the leg, and they have pants on or shorts on, you can't really see exactly where the blood is. If someone has a white shirt on and they get shot somewhere, the whole shirt gonna be bloody. You want to make sure that you know exactly where the gunshot wound is. Okay? At this point, I'm going to tell you that with the advent of COVID-19 and people are like, oh, you got to wash your hands and everything, and people are really finicky around blood in general. I'm going to say that it's a very, 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 very low chance of you contracting a communicable disease from having no gloves on and getting blood on your hands. Okay?
Right, that was
And
insane.
even if you do get a needle, I've seen people who've been stuck with needles who have what? What are we concerned about? HIV, what else? AIDS, hepatitis, etc. Okay? People think that if you get blood on your hand, if you have contact with blood like this, that you automatically are going to get HIV or hepatitis, which are the worst of what people's fears are. Okay? I will tell you that that's untrue. Unless you get stuck by a needle, that actually has HIV on
That's
it.
different.
Even if you do get stuck by a needle, and I've seen people get stuck by a needle and HIV on it. We got medications and everything you take for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and you'll never have it. You'll never get it. So it shouldn't deter you from, it shouldn't stop you from responding to someone who is bleeding, okay?
You got an open wound on your body, and then that with blood.
That too, but even if so, it's even a lower likely chance. If you get stuck by a needle, that's a higher chance of you getting HIV rather than if you have a wound on your body. So what I'm saying is, if you have a wound on your body, even if you do, it still wouldn't stop me from responding to somebody, because I know that we got drugs and everything that people can take for 6 to 8 weeks and you'll never get it. And I've seen it happen multiple times where people have gotten stuck by a needle of someone has HIV, have never gotten it, okay? All right, cool. So, with that being said, it shouldn't deter you, okay? If you have gloves, great, but it shouldn't stop you. You shouldn't be looking around for gloves. Hey, let me get some gloves, because you only got 30 minutes if it's a major bleed, huh?
You got lesser than that, because you're looking for the glove.
Because yeah, exactly, okay?
15 minutes done went by.
Exactly, so you don't want to waste that time doing it,
And
okay?
it take another 45 minutes for the paramedics to get it.
Exactly. Okay, so with that being said, we called the paramedics, they're on the way, you responded to the individual, you are with anticipation to stop the bleed, you approach them, you ask them, for permission to help them, right? You're looking for the gunshot wound, you taking off the clothes of, if someone got shot in the leg, you don't want to ask them to take off their shirt, that don't make no sense. They ain't gonna trust you, okay? If it is a woman or someone of the opposite sex who's asking to do these things, you want to make sure you tell them why. You ain't just gonna walk up and say, hey, I need you to take off your shirt. They're gonna be like, what? Like, that don't make no sense. I need to identify exactly where this blood is coming from. In order to do that, I gotta remove your shirt, okay? Or at least I gotta pull it up to make sure, is that okay with you? Yes, okay, great. Once you identify exactly where the bleeding is coming from, you check the entrance wound, and then what else?
And how?
The exit wound as well. Because you could be holding pressure on somebody in the entrance wound, and they bleeding from the back. So you slowed it down, but you're not doing what you're supposed to.
For the back, right.
You want to check the front and the back, the entrance and the exit wound. Somebody might get shot in the leg and it might be bleeding on both sides. You want to make sure that you know exactly what's going on. A lot of times with with the bullets that we have now, and it's a shame to say, the bullets
7.62 bullets, huh?
the bullets that we use today and that are available at the pawn shops and things of that nature across Miami-Dade County and across the city, across the country for that matter, are not the same bullets that we use in the military. Usually what they use in the military is hollow tip and things of that nature. These bullets that they got, these bullets are going through people's bedrooms and everything like that. And so while I'm doing this, I like to say, look, it's likely it will be an exit wound because these bullets don't, these bullets are heavy duty artillery. In addition to that, if it's in an area like an apartment complex or something like that, you may want to ask people around, hey, did that bullet go through anybody's house or anything like that? That's later on. But what I will say is that the bullets that we're using today are not the same bullets that people are using even in the military. They're very dangerous, So likely it will be an exit wound. And it's also likely that the bullet could ricochet and go other places as well, okay? So with that being said, you found the entrance wound, you found the exit wound, okay? So you did the alert, you found the bleeding, and now what's next? Compression, okay. So, compression. That's important. So I'm gonna hand out these are tourniquets. You can carry these with you. So. Can we put a tourniquet around someone's neck?
No.
Can we put it around their head?
No.
Can we put it around the stomach?
No.
No. Okay. We can only put tourniquets around what? The extremities. The legs, the arms. That's it. Okay? You can only put these around the extremities. Okay? When you place a tourniquet, number one, as I said, you only got an hour and 30 minutes. Okay? Once you place it longer than that, the person is at risk of losing their extremity, okay? Because literally, it's gonna hurt. It is gonna stop the bleed if you're doing it correctly. And your organs can only survive, your extremities can only survive for an hour and a half without a blood supply, okay? And so what I want to say is, just like the guy who had a shoelace tied around his leg, he lost his leg, the point is to survive. So even if people say, hey, this hurt, like, yo, this is going to save your life, trust me, okay? All right, cool. So I want everybody to take the tourniquet out. Take it out. All right, so the way that the tourniquet goes, we'll practice on you. All right, is the part with the Velcro goes on the outside. Okay, the part with the Velcro, the bumpy side goes on the outside. Okay, you wrap it around the extremity. Okay, you put it through the buckle. Make it as tight as possible around the arm, and then do the Velcro down. Okay? I want you to practice on someone else. Okay? Practice on someone else. Can you practice on him? And you practice for her. All right, okay. Yeah, y'all practice. You can practice on me. All right. Yeah.
Looks like
You want to put it around me. I know how to do it. I want you to do it on me.
Oh, Dr. Henderson.
Right.
I was thinking of, are you going to address like if the person has been shot in a specific place to go above the
Yes,
surface?
I am. Yeah.
So it looks like you've been shot here. So then I want to stop.
So, put it around, okay? Smooth side there, okay? You put it through here like this, okay? And then you put it down.
And just take them like
Got it?
that.
All right, cool. All right, you got it? Everybody got the way it goes, okay? So,
Wait, hold on.
look.
Right. They only did it once. So then this goes.
It goes like this.
We're getting shot.
Around, part there. This goes around there.
No, me.
Right there, like that. Okay? All right, cool. All right, once you have it around, the next step is to turn the stick. And this is honestly where you have to tell a person, yo, this is gonna hurt, but it's gonna save your life, okay? The point of turning the stick is to make it as tight as possible, okay? After 3 or 4 turns, this thing is real tight, okay? Once you do that, you put it in a little groove here, and you put the white sticker over it. So this is supposed to go in here, put the white sticker over, okay? Is it too tight?
No.
I want you to practice with somebody else, okay? I want you to practice with somebody else.
And then I,
Yeah,
let's say it's super tight, and then I put it here,
yeah,
and I wrap it.
all right,
Put it around.
yeah.
No, I still did it.
You did it right, you gotta tighten it a little more. Yeah, there you go.
So this part go right here.
Yeah. Then you open that. Yeah. You turn. Yeah. Well, not even 3 times. You put it like until it's tight, until it hurts you. Bam, you did it. Okay, great. All right, so that's how you generally use a tourniquet, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about some specific things about the tourniquet. Number 1, you cannot put the tourniquet in a joint. So you can't put it along the elbow because you ain't compressing nothing. It has to be within a muscular structure that has no like bones in between, okay? I mean, of course there's a bone in your wrist and everything like that, but the ones that have the most amount of muscle tissue there, okay? So you can't put it in a joint, not in the elbow joint. You can't put it in the knee joint or anything like that, okay? You can't put it around the waist. It ain't gonna work, okay? It has to be directly over an artery, okay? Next thing, you have to put it above where the wound is. So if someone gets shot in the arm, you got to put it above, okay? When you're looking at the arteries and the arteries in this picture, right? You are trying to stop the bleeding of that the heart is pumping oxygenated blood where? Away from the heart to the extremities, right? And so when you look at the heart pumping, it goes like this, down. It goes down, okay? So you want to place it above, right? So if somebody gets shot right here, you want to place it here.
Yeah.
Someone gets shot in the leg right here, you want to place it as close up here as possible, to the groin as possible, okay? So it has to be above where the wound is. Or else, if you put it below where the wound is, you're not doing it, it's still gonna be bleeding. It's not gonna stop it at all, okay? So, and you'll see if you try to place a tourniquet of somewhere, you don't do it on the wound, you do it above the wound. Not below, not on, above the wound, okay? So that's important. This is a tourniquet that you can carry around with you, but honestly, you don't need a tourniquet, right? As I mentioned, a guy in Honduras, his leg got ran over, he's an amputee now. The taxi driver took the shoelaces out of his shoe and tied it around this guy's leg above the wound and saved his life, okay? You can also use, what else do you think you can use?
Belt.
You can use a belt, you can use a shirt,
A tie.
you can use a tie,
Headscarf.
okay? You can use a headscarf, right? And if you want to have a stick, you can use a crowbar. You can use a metal like knife or something that's not going to bend. You can use a wrench. You know what I mean? Basically, what you can do is you can take a shirt or something, right? Tie it around it, and then once you do one tie, you put the stick or whatever in between. You tie it again, and then you twist it.
down.
Same thing. It's the same thing. If you don't even have a tourniquet or nothing with you, you can do what?
Hold it down.
You could just put pressure.
Comfort.
You could
Compress.
just compress with your right on the wound. Just you can get a shirt or something and just put maximum amount of pressure right there. Okay. The honest truth is that if you do have a tourniquet, you can't use it on the head. You can't use it on the neck. You can't use it in the stomach, right? So these are the places where you only can put pressure. Okay. The point is to stop the blood from going out of the wound, and you can do that by just placing pressure. So even if you don't have this, or you can't use this because it's not an extremity, you just go ahead and put pressure on the place, okay? Now, it gets kind of tricky if there's an entrance and an exit wound, because now you gotta put pressure at two places, okay? So, that's what happened to you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So sometimes you gotta put pressure at two places, but it's still doable, though, as well. The main thing you don't want to do is just sit there and not do nothing.
That's the end.
Yeah? Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay. And then they took you to Ryder.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I didn't even know I had an exit. They only thought I had the inlet.
Okay.
They found out when I got in trouble.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the inner wound. That's the out.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you see, I'm telling you
Yeah,
what's
you're right.
needed.
I
Okay.
ain't got no bone here, straight metal.
Right. Okay.
See some?
So you can use other things around you, shoelaces, sheets, and everything like that. And you shouldn't. The bleeding shouldn't stop you from helping someone out. Okay. Now you've done that. You either alerted, you stopped. You found the bleeding, and now you put compression as well. Now, if you're waiting and it's been about 15. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is the time. Okay, remember I only said you have what? How long before?
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half, 90 minutes. So you want to write the time on here when you did it, because someone could be at risk of losing this. Okay, so you want to make sure that if you do tie this around someone's leg or arm, that they know what time, so that you can like let it loose, let some blood. Especially if you're in a remote place and you need to use it, and then put it right back on after that. Okay.
So once I was gonna ask that question, I'm glad you brought it up. So once it's been an hour and a half, you said you could loose the tourniquet
With prior.
and then you could tighten it back with it start the time over.
It don't start the time right over. You basically just give them like a little, you know what I'm saying? But it's tricky though. If someone has a major bleed, like the individual lost his leg, you in a remote place, you just gonna have to chalk it up, But for us, we close to a hospital. It shouldn't take that long to get. You shouldn't get to an hour and a half, because Jackson is right there. Ryder Trauma Center is right there. Okay. I want to say that if you're doing this and it's 15 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by, and you're sitting there holding it, no one's there yet. At that point, you could be like, I'm gonna just take the person to Ryder Trauma Center, because it's too long. I called them, they're not coming. A lot of times it does take a little longer for ambulance to come to places like in my neighborhood. I'm sure the ambulance time here is not the same as it is in Coral Gables. It's just it's just the nature of it. So if you decide to take the person to the hospital, you take them to where? Ryder Trauma Center. Okay, great. All right, cool. So let's say that it's so bad that it took you a while to actually get the bleeding stopped, right? the person is standing up, okay? Now we're gonna talk about what I call shock, okay? They're losing blood, okay? And now they're going into what we call shock. Shock is what happens when you lose a lot of blood in your body. What do you think happens to the heart rate in shock? Does it go up or down? It goes up.
Oh, it go up.
Because now the heart has to work harder to pump the blood to the rest of the body faster than what it did before. The same thing happens when you're running. When you're running, the heart rate goes what? Because now the organs in your body are especially your muscles, are requiring more blood. So now the heart has to pump faster and harder to get the blood around the body, okay? So the signs of shock are, number one, an increased heart rate, okay? What else happens during shock? If you lost a lot of blood, what have you
You
seen?
can pass out.
You can die as well.
Pass out.
You could pass out. That's the end of shock.
You become
What else?
pale,
You become pale, okay?
sweaty.
If you're black, what happens? How can you tell somebody's, huh?
Start turning blue.
In the
They
lip.
start turning blue. You look at the lips, exactly. You can look at the lips in black people, under the tongue, the nail beds. You can tell, you know what I mean? They look pale. You turn their hands around, they look like red. They don't look like yellow almost. They look like almost like just a lighter yellow or whatever. And so, what else happens?
Person would sweat. like
They get
sweaty,
sweat. They get cold. I'm cold. I feel cold. They start shivering and everything. These are all signs of impending shock. Okay? The last step of shock is what?
You fall out.
When you fall out. Now let me tell you why that happens, okay? The heart's main function is to pump blood where? To the brain.
To the brain.
To the brain, okay? If you fall out, is it easier or harder to pump blood to the brain?
Hard.
Is it?
It's easier
Easier?
because now you're on one plane. When you're standing up like this, the heart has to pump hard to get it down to the rest of the body. When you're on one plane laying down, it's easy for it to circulate, way easier when you're laying down. So it's actually a defense mechanism for shock. But we don't want somebody to fall out if they already got shot. Okay? So one of the main things you can do if someone is bleeding is to say, hey, let's sit down. Let's sit on the ground. Let's make sure that, because if you fall out, you can hit your head, and that's gonna make this whole situation worse. Yeah. Now you got 2 injuries. So shock is when you fall out. The last part of shock is when blood is not going to your brain. In order for your heart to better pump blood to your brain, you need to be on a flat plane, okay? Now, if someone has gunshot trauma, the one thing you do want to do is you want to make sure that they're on a hard surface. Because if you have to start CPR, you can't do that on a water bed. You can't do that on top of a shady table, that could bust open and the person could fall and bust their head, because the point of CPR is to mimic the contraction and the relaxation of the heart. Okay? When you press down, you're forcing blood out of the heart. When you get up, you're allowing the blood to fill. Okay? And so we'll talk about that too. Okay? So someone is in shock now. They've lost a lot of blood. They've fallen down, or not they've fallen down, but they say, yeah, I don't feel good. You sit them down on the ground. Now they're on one plane. They're saying, yo, I still don't feel good. But they're awake though, still. So if somebody's awake, they usually have a pulse. So you don't have to check the pulse yet. But what is something that you can do in order to help bring blood back to the heart?
CPR.
Elevate. They're not there yet.
Okay.
They're not at CPR yet because they're still awake. I don't feel good. They look like they're getting there. They're not there yet, right?
Yes.
You said what?
Elevate the extremity.
You elevate the extremities. Look how much blood is in the legs. If you're not usually what happens when you walk, your veins, the muscles in your legs help bring the blood back up to the heart. Like they get tight, they force, the veins, which are just open. They don't really have a lot of muscle around them. The arteries have muscle around them. They can contract and relax, and everything. The veins are just really like spongy material. They really just rely on the muscles to help bring blood back to the heart. And with that being said, a lot of fluid, a lot of blood can pool in the legs. So one of the things that you want to do if the person's already on the ground and they're feeling good is just to raise the legs up. And that forces the blood to go down and back into the heart, and you might get a couple extra minutes. They might wake up a little longer, but it's only a temporizing measure, okay? At this point, it's very critical, If you haven't decided to take that person to the hospital before, now it's just like, I need to get this person to the hospital as soon as possible, okay? So at the point where someone is in shock, that's when you really want to evaluate what are my chances of, how can I get this person to the hospital? Because they are at a decreased chance of surviving at this point in shock, or at preliminary shock, okay? Let's say you raise the legs, they're on the ground, you know what I'm saying? And now they're not talking anymore, okay? What do you do now? They're not talking.
Check your pulse.
Not yet. The
Make
first
sure-
thing you do is a what?
Make sure they're breathing.
You could do that too. What else can you do?
Talk to them.
You can talk to them, try to wake them up. Hey, you all right? Wake up! Wake up! If that doesn't work, what do? You do a sternal rub. A sternal rub is one of the most painful things that you can do to someone. If they don't wake up during a sternal rub, they probably out. You take your knuckle, you put it in the middle of the chest, you press down and you rub. It hurts a lot, even if you do it to yourself. If they don't wake up from that, they're probably out. The next thing you do is what? That's when you check a pulse, okay? Now where you check the pulse? Behind the leg, right?
No.
No, in the neck. Right, you check the pulse in the neck, okay? If they don't have a pulse in the neck, what do?
CPR.
CPR, okay. You make sure they're on a flat surface and you start CPR. Who knows how to do CPR? Okay, great, so I got some mannequins, and we're gonna practice CPR. And then we're gonna talk about, we're gonna do a general overview, and then we're done. Okay? So I want people to come to a mannequin. I'm gonna set one up here, and one over here. Okay? So you check the pulse, okay? They don't have a pulse. What do?
CPR.
You check it again.
Check it again.
Check it one more time. Because as I said, if you start to do CPR on an individual that's out, that's not out, that's still awake,
No.
they're gonna be real upset at you.
That's a waste of time.
That's a waste of time, and you can break their ribs, and you don't want to do that. And you know, a lot of things are going through your hand. You know, the tension is up for you. You might have missed it. You know, you just want to. All right, let me just check it again. They might have a pulse. You know, you don't start CPR on someone unless they do not have a pulse. Okay. All right. So.
Oh, I have to.
All right. So if you know how to do CPR, I want you to show the individual there. Okay? All right. So, in CPR, okay, the first thing you do is to check a pulse. If they don't have it, what do?
Check again.
Check again.
Check it again.
You do the sternal rub when someone passes out. Okay? If they don't wake up from the sternal rub, you check a pulse. Okay? All right, so you check the 2 times, and now you want to start CPR. The first thing you do is you want to make sure that they're on a flat surface. Okay? Flat surface. Once they're on a flat surface, you want to make sure that you're getting perpendicular to them. Okay? So you don't want to do CPR from the head. You don't want to do CPR from the legs. You want to do it on the side. Okay? So what I need you to do is I need you to get to the side of the mannequin. Who knows how to do CPR? Yeah. You got to get on your knees. Okay? You take one hand, you put it out in front of you, okay? You take your other hand, you put it on top, like this, okay? You use the heel of you use your palm, basically, to press in the middle of the nipples, okay? In the chest area, okay? You want to lock your elbows, okay? And then you want to make sure that you're pressing down fully on the individual and also coming up. Because again, what you're mimicking is what?
The heartbeat.
The heartbeat. The contraction and the relaxation of the heart. If you're not coming all the way up, you're not allowing the blood to fill into the heart. Okay? If you're not pressing all the way down, you're not forcing the blood out of the heart to the maximum amount that you could. Okay? So, let's start.
And then the song that
I
I
got
think
it.
is you're gonna.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Okay. I want to do this first. Okay? So, you are in a good position. Yes? You want to lock your elbows. And you want to press straight down. 1, 2. Harder than that. 1, 2. And you want to lock your elbows. Lock your elbows. Yes, yes. Down. Harder. Yes. Right there. You see? Look, the green light. It comes on. Okay? All right. All right. So,
Oh.
all right. So, you put this here. No, like this.
Bring that.
Okay. Heel in.
I'm coming
Press
right
down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I'm coming out there right now.
This is tiring. Okay.
Look around.
When I've done CPR before, I've only been able to do it for only like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'm tired. So if you're doing it correctly, you're gonna be tired. There you go.
I'm coming now.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Now, there is a song to keep in your mind, okay? The normal heart rate is from 70 to 90 beats per minute, okay? And there's a song with a beat that people like to use. It's called Staying Alive, okay? Because obviously, we want this individual to stay alive.
From the same rhythm.
Okay.
Staying alive.
You want to do it to this beat. I'm about to turn it on the thing. Hold on, give me 1 second.
So I'm gonna be like,
You can hear
Right,
it.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, you know, like going,
We can hear it though.
Okay. Staying alive. Staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive. Come on. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. So when you are doing CPR, you want to keep this song in your head because you are mimicking the heart rate of a normal heart by going to this beat, okay? All right. So, before, when you do CPR, what do you think about? You think about doing breaths too, right?
right.
We don't do that no more. It's outdated. What they think is that, what they're saying is that you have enough blood in your blood supply to circulate throughout the body to do CPR and for it still to be good without giving 2 breaths. And people don't want to interrupt CPR in order to get breaths. They feel like the actual compressions are more important, okay? All right, so we didn't get certified today, but in general, if you keep these principles of CPR, you will save someone's life, okay? You want to make sure you're on a flat surface, you be perpendicular to the individual, you don't want to be on top of them, you want to be on the side of them, okay? You want to press down, keep your elbows locked, one hand over the other, and press down to the beat, okay? And that's basically it. Okay, so,
If you had to say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my question is, for example, let's say the person is on top of a comfortable surface like a car or something.
you don't do
Then
it
you
on a car.
can't
No,
do it
it
there.
has to be a
You
flat
gotta-
surface. They have to be on a flat surface, grass, you know, something like that, yeah. Because also, if they're on a high surface, you can't even, you're not gonna be able to press down, it's not gonna work out. So, with that being said, we're going to go back over, what's up, man? With that being said, we're gonna go back over it, okay? We're gonna go over the whole thing, all right?
What's the count for this? I know you said the beat, but what is,
60 to 90 beats per minute,
so I have to do 60 counts?
yes.
Okay.
What do you mean 60 counts?
Like,
Like how many times?
right, how many times do you
Oh,
want
no,
to?
you just wanna go for like 3 minutes or until someone else can relieve you? You just go.
Yeah.
Continuously, you just go.
Forever. I mean, you.